renarspodcast.
So coaching, let's just get into the whole concept of that. First of all, when you meet people in general, and you say you're life coaching, how often do you get like reaction of like, ooh, it's like some voodoo stuff? Or do you get reaction, oh, wow, that's interesting. Or I'm heard of coaching, I need a coach. Or what is your experience?
Not really. I don't get the first one too much. You know, oh God, life coaching. Yeah, I mean, unless people are thinking it and they're not saying it, you know, that could be the case. But then at the same time, I don't go around and just kind of, you know, tell everyone. It just depends on the conversation. So, for example, yesterday I went to a book club. You'd be surprised. For the first time, it was really good actually.
Reminding the book club.
Yeah, I know. It's shocking.
That
right?
never happens.
Yeah. And it was really interesting. So everyone kind of got together in this hotel lobby. And there was a good group of about 30, 40 people or so. And again, it's just really sociable.
Did they wear any clothes?
What?
Just like, there 30 people get in the hotel room.
No, hotel lobby.
Oh, lobby.
Yeah.
Oh.
Not hotel room, hotel lobby. Book club right now, it's book club.
Book club. Naked book club. I love that.
We're not talking about swingers club here. We're talking about book club, right?
Multitasking. Read a book. Do the thing.
Oh, goodness. Okay, so carrying on. It's the fact that you snort as well afterwards, that's what it is.
It just amplifies the magnitude of what I was just saying.
There you go. Okay, so what was my point? I forgot.
Something about lobby and naked people.
You're taking me off the course now. Book club. Yes, right. Okay, so we were talking about book clubs. Oh, no, we were talking about the kind of emotions and personal development. The point is that the crowd there were kind of very much into kind of personal development. And so the conversation naturally arose where, you know, it was...
Here's my business card. I'm a life coach.
No, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's lots of work to do here, honey. You.
Yeah, come with me.
We're going to do group session.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it came up there because it was natural. So then... Actually, funny enough, people did ask me, it's like, oh, do you do an event? Or can I have a business card? But I didn't have a business card with me. So
yeah, so unprofessional.
So unprofessional. So, yeah, I mean, you know, it just depends the crowd that you're with, really. So you just have to kind of read the room sometimes and just see, you know, who's potentially interested and who isn't. But, I mean, people have different views of it. I think life coaching, because it's so broad... Very subtle.
From here, I can see it's like half a meter away from your face.
It's not half a meter.
Just bring it like this, look.
All right. Yeah?
Yeah, okay. So much better.
Okay. So, yeah, life coaching, because it's so broad, maybe people have, you know, particular ideas about it or... but mindset coaching, when I describe what it is, people tend to be interested, actually. That's the reaction that I tend to get. People are interested in, oh, is that what you do? And tell me a bit more and, you know, how does it work? And how do you find clients? What kind of work do you do? And...
How did the whole madness of life coaching started? Because it's, I mean, right now it's huge. It's massive. It's multi-million, billion, I don't know how much money's career.
Yeah.
No, not career, but industry. Was it, what's his name? The big guy, Tony
Robbins.
Tony Robbins. He's like the pioneer, isn't he?
I don't know if he's the one that started it, you know, from the very beginning, but obviously he
invented life coaching.
He invented it. But yeah, he is known for it because he obviously is in the States and he does a lot of work on it. And I mean, he's great. I mean, the energy and stuff that he brings.
It's pretty crazy.
I don't know if have you seen any of his clips?
I mean, it's insane. Like I've seen some of them, and also like you hear how much money people are willing to pay for like 3-4 day course, which guarantees them that they're gonna change their lives and stuff. And
but you're saying it in that tone. But for some people, it is actually
what tone?
In that kind of like
condescending.
Yeah, a little bit.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. and for some people, not everyone, but for some people, it is absolutely transformational. It is. There's certain things that unlock, or certain conversations that they have, or certain barriers that they pass, or a different way of thinking. They have, you know, shifts in their mindset that does change the trajectory of their life. So, I mean,
it's true. It's true. Like, who am I to say what? Like, that sounds like bullshit to me. Like, it sounds like bullshit to me, but the other people, that's totally different. It's the perspective and what they need. It just sometimes feels like. I need that motivation, like, I you know, to go to gym or to do whatever in my life. I need that motivation. Well, suck it up and just do it.
Yeah, but you're okay.
It's not enough. Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah, because you have that intrinsic kind of motivation that drives you, right? I mean, you can see it like with your physique as well. Like you go training.
Stuff it.
Oh, yeah. No, but, you know, you have...
that was good.
That was great.
With your physique, yeah.
That was it. Do you want to do it a third time?
No,
It's all right.
Okay.
Right, so you have that motivation that you go, you get up, you do things, you jump off bridges, all that kind of stuff, right? So like I'm on the side reading my book.
Sounds like it was suicide.
No,
just go get up and just jump off the bridge.
Yeah, no, the way I said that wasn't great. But as in like I'm reading my book on the side and you're doing your, what do you call it?
What?
Literally when you're like, you're diving from the
high
bridge.
diving in the water, yeah.
There we go, yeah, exactly. You but from the bridge.
Yeah, but it's like just activity. Like riding a bicycle.
No, it's really not.
It's the same.
No, but it's very different.
It's way more fun than riding a bicycle.
Right, okay, but it's also very more challenging. It's a lot more different, right? Anyhow,
okay.
Point is that you've got the motivation, but people don't. People don't. And so they need to have some sense of like accountability or they need to kind of understand what the motivation is, internally. What is it that drives them? So like, for example, the conversations that I have with people, it's like, what are your values? What is it that what's the purpose and what's the reason that you're doing X, Y, Z? What is it that drives you? Because if you can link it, I think, to what you feel is important, then that's going to help you to keep going when you don't feel like it as well,
That's interesting. It's just that, again, like it's the upbringings, the things what are important and what are, it's just understandable. It's all about kind of the perspective what each of us we have. Like we all are individuals, right? The way you look at things, what is your outlook? To say like, what do I want to succeed in my life? Like how do I see myself? Do I want to be successful in business? Do I want to have a family? Do I want to have whatever? So since we're kids, like we are kind of embedded with those values. We're embedded with those, like, this is the thing what you should strive for. Then it means that some of those people kind of don't have that. They didn't have that kind of a pep talk from their family, pep talk from their close ones. And they said like, just live your life. Everything's going to be perfect. But it's not. So I didn't have a plan. I didn't go do an investigation like Hermione did.
Yeah, but also on top of that, even if people did have a talk with their parents, sometimes the parents, probably with good intention, they relay or they kind of share with the child what they think the child should do. Then the child goes down that path of becoming whatever, a lawyer, a doctor, but actually it's not what they want.
Yeah.
Right? So even if you have the pep talk with your parents, if it's not aligned to what you want, and sometimes it's actually that in itself is the exploration work to find out what you want.
But one of the problems then, or main problems, is that the parent doesn't say like, as long as you're happy or as long as you do what you want to do. But they mainly, especially like our parents' generation, what they would say to us would be, the money, the safety, what's the safety and guarantee that you're gonna have income and to support your family. So those are because they came from like crazy times of Great Depressions and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't a question about, I want to do the job of my dreams. It was a question about you need to make enough money to support your family.
Yeah, I think now we're in a position where it's a lot more. We're lucky, in that sense that we've got such a lot more variety, living standards. At least in the West, is better in the sense that we can do job, we can have our social life, we can do such a multitude of different things, and so we have options around what we want to do as well that maybe we didn't have so much before. But that in itself can cause you to be stagnated, right? So which way do I go?
Yeah,
which option do I take? But that's why again, I think it's important to go inwards and kind of see try to work on what aligns for you internally, which is not always easy. I'm not saying it's an easy thing.
It's very.
It's not.
I think for me. It's definitely was very hard.
Yeah.
I still find it quite crazy. I still don't really know what the hell.
What do you mean you don't?
Well, still there's certain things where I question myself. I would be like, okay, what am I doing here? Why I'm feels like sometimes I'm wasting my time with certain things or whatever. So I definitely, if you would ask me, am I better than I was 15 years ago? Definitely. Right. I'm at least feels like I'm going that direction. But yeah, about 10, 15 years ago, I was like, I don't know what's going on here. It was mainly just to make that money to pay your bills and stuff.
So what do you think, what is it in you that kind of allowed you to see or change path? What was it a defining moment, or was it?
One of the biggest ones when I was emceeing events and parties, which was my kind of hobby / extra income. There's one time I emceed like one of the most challenging events. It was like for 2,000 people. I was thrown in the deep end because I was replacing the guy who usually does it. And from very beginning, I literally had people coming over like, who the fuck are you? Like, what are you doing here? Like, you like some kid here, da, da, da. But in those 3 days, I fought for their kind of recognition. And at the end, the same people come over and they said, you were better than the guy before. Because it felt like you cared more and la la la, and like we had so much fun. And that's where I got in a car and I was just about to drive. And then the manager who hired me runs out like, where are you going? It's like, what? Like, microphones are given back, all good. And she's like, no, I didn't pay you yet. So that was the first time I didn't care about the money. It was just like, this is such an amazing thing I've just done.
Yeah.
So it's like, I proved myself from very beginning that I thought, what the hell? You know, I'm just messing up here. But then in the end, it was just like, wow. So that's where I was like, this is how it feels when you do what you really want to do.
Right. Okay.
You know, so, and then I was looking more for that. The same thing with podcast, the same thing, you know, with stunts. Unfortunately now feels some days like, yeah, I will pay you to do what I'm doing now. But some days I'm like, just counting hours, like, okay, just, you know.
You know, in that moment, did you feel like, I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I'm curious. Did you feel like there was any shift in your belief in that moment, like on that day?
And this, ladies and gentlemen, an example of coaching time here. So,
yeah, well, I'm curious, and
no.
that's why I like coaching, because I want to know, like, what is it that happens in those moments that makes someone change decision or make a decision or change trajectory? Like, what is it that happens? You know, so like in that, if it was that was like a defining moment, was there any shift in your? Because you said like, this is what it feels like to do something that you enjoy, right? So was it kind of like an eye opener to say, oh, you know what, this is possible? Like it's actually a route that can be taken. One can do something and enjoy it at the same time.
Yeah. Well,
right.
that's when it was like you tried a cuisine you never tried in your life, and you tried something like, wow, is that how food can taste actually? Yeah, it can.
Yeah.
So look for that good food, look for that adventure, you know, and then so many things then around that time start changing for me, and then I moved away from Latvia, and then I was like on total just trying to figure out where to go, what to do, going from house to house, selling cable TV in freezing Canada.
Yeah.
You know, that was also this, I can't express how thankful I am that happened, because that experience is so needed. And I think that's better than, like, obviously it's great when you have a mentor or like who's your coach and helps you. But through like these kind of hardships, you're going to get your own epiphany. And it feels like, because I went through that stuff, I feel that, and that was a hard stuff to do, but I'm very grateful that I did it. I feel like instead of people looking for coaches, they should just do that kind of stuff as well.
Well, it's funny that you said that. So, because as you were saying it, I thought that experience that you had, of course, it's, you know, it's valid, it's good, and it happens for different people as well. But for other people, it doesn't happen through the experience. It happens through the exploration of conversation. So going back to what you were saying before about like the weekend at like Tony Robbins weekend or those kind of things, they can have those kind of equivalent epiphanies or kind of moments of realization through being around like-minded people or having certain questions to kind of help them explore. So it can take that kind of shape as well. Or, I mean, it happens with the coaching clients that I have. It happens with the coaching clients that I have, that we kind of talk through things. It's a really, you know, non-judgmental space. So the person feels relaxed to really kind of open up and share things, and then kind of unlock certain areas or open certain doors in their mind that they hadn't opened with family members, maybe because it's too vulnerable, or friends because they're going to be judged, and they haven't had the time to go there themselves because they've been too busy. So in that dynamic where you're being held accountable to continue your thinking, where you would naturally stop your own thinking, maybe in some points, you're continuing the thinking, you're continuing the exploration, things come on the back of it, right? Like changes in the way that you think, changes therefore in your approach, your behavior, different actions that you start taking in the world, that then starts creating a different kind of belief system potentially about what you can do and what you can't do. I mean, that's like profound stuff, you know? I mean, I know it's obviously biased because I'm in coaching, but like I strongly believe in the power of it, which is why I think it's such a...
I do agree to that as well. There's no doubt. It can work for some people. It's just what I'm trying to say is like, it feels like it's a cheating. It feels like, you know, some people go through this hardship of like going through these shitty moments and really, really testing themselves physically, mentally, from all perspectives, right? And then they get that epiphany, and then they're like, okay, this is the thing. But what you offering is like, yeah, you're still gonna be chill in your couch, and like you're still getting, doing your job, whatever. You're still very comfortable, and then we here come together, these professionals, and help you to open your mind. On top of it, you pay us a lot of money, right? So that's the main difference. So instead of like being bare ass somewhere in the middle of forest, you're just trying to survive, and you get out there with the holy grail and say, yeah, this is the answer to all my things. Or you just pampered by life coaches. Listen, just calm down.
No, but it's not pampering.
We're just gonna talk, but it feels more like that.
So, okay, again, two things. There's always two things.
I don't sound like that.
No, that'll be three things. That I've let go, right? Two things. Number one, right, is that it's not pampering. You're kind of devaluing it a little bit, the way that you were saying that. You're like pampering and kind of mollycoddling. It's not that. It's actually tough work to go into a space where people don't usually go, or they don't want to go. They become vulnerable. Sometimes when I work with clients, they get very, upset and emotional about, got to be careful with those moments, right? Because the person's really kind of feeling it, they're experiencing it. So it's not flowery, kind of pampering. I think it takes a lot of guts, actually, to go into a place where you explore yourself, you have someone challenging you, someone that hopefully I'd like to think that, you trust, you have faith in, right? To kind of work with you, side by side. It's not like kind of, it's not a diagnosis or anything like that. But side by side, two adults kind of exploring the landscape together and going into a place where it's actually, quite painful, quite vulnerable. That's not easy. And I think the second thing is, it sounds like you've got a really strong belief around, what it means. That route in your head is super clear. In order to get from A to Z, one must have like a challenging and then a challenging time, and almost like in a film, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then comes the epiphany. So
Conan the Barbarian fights all these creatures and survives at the end and gets the princess.
Exactly. Lovely story. That's it. Exactly. You should put that in the
Just
script.
like Mario and Luigi as well. Mario, get the princess.
Right. Okay. So you should make a film like that. You should go into directing, in fact. So you've got that in your head as like a blueprint that one needs to follow in order to to get to the...
It's like initiation. Like you need to work hard for your stuff.
Right, but other people have a different belief system, which is, I don't necessarily have to work hard. I can work smart, for example. And working smart is actually, I'm not saying necessarily going to a life coach, but it could look different. So do you see what I'm saying?
I get it. It's, again, it comes basically back to how I was raised, and that we did not have the smart option. We had the just work your ass off option.
Right.
And then hopefully survive.
Yeah.
It's like my old friends were like playing in the street, having fun, and I'm just like working my ass off.
Yeah, but it's so interesting because it's exactly, and I'm not going to get into coaching mode here, right? But if I were in coaching mode, I would and obviously if that's what the person's wanting to explore and stuff like that, I would have a conversation with them around how useful has that been, that approach. I'm not coming from the angle of saying that it's not been good, it's not useful, but just curious to know if that approach has been useful for the person, or are they just doing it by default, or are they just doing it, automatically because it's what they learn. It's learned behavior from a childhood experience, but actually, is it serving you? Because in some cases it might serve you, in which case I say keep it. But in other cases, actually, would it be better, more efficient, more pleasurable to be working it from a smart place rather than an automatic, Yeah, I
agree.
Place.
True. There's points where I notice the way I work, even, to this day or today in general, it's like that I feel like, just Renar, suck it up, work really hard. And then I'm like, I haven't slept properly. I was up too late. Like, why I'm sacrificing this? Like, this doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So all I need to do, again, be more smart about it, do a proper planning, do this, like figuring out my priorities. So it's definitely not always hard work is the best option.
Yeah. And it feels like, you've got that belief really hardcore, entrenched in you, but actually just like taking distance from it and recognizing, how useful is that belief.
So in the world now, there are like supposedly two schools who said like give like certification of like being a life coach. But even then, can you like open your practice and because of that paperwork or that certificate, now you're a legit life coach, or it's still kind of gray area?
I mean, so the last time I looked into it, it was fairly recently. It's becoming more regulated, but it's still the case where someone can go into coaching and not have any qualifications and call themselves a life coach. But there's a couple of people, like even in the UK, that are quite well known. They don't have coaching qualifications, but they, from supposedly from testimonies, etc., they've done like a lot of good work with people and they've helped them. Having said that, I'm all about getting the qualifications, right?
Yeah.
So having the coaching qualifications. So for me, it was the ILM, the Institute of Leadership and Management, initially that I did, but that just gave me the theory, like the theoretical understanding of coaching, but it didn't give me the practical kind of side. So then I went to do Animas, which is the other school of coaching, transformational coaching. And that is like, a number of hours, there's assignments you got to do, there's coaching calls you got to make, there's your mentor that will watch you and supervise you, etc. And that they're really good Animas. So
funny fact, I started doing Animus as well because Laura said it's really cool. You forgot already about it.
Yeah.
I did like half of it, I think. Yeah. And then it's like in the middle of it, I realized this is not really for me.
It's not for you.
Yeah, because my main argument was like, it feels like you would need to deal with people who, there are points where like it's not really you qualified to do those things and to tell them or suggest them or coach them. And it involves a lot of listening and all that kind of patience stuff. And I don't know, I had a specific type of like argument for me that I was like, I don't think that's how I see or would like to pursue this kind of career as well. Like it felt like, how are you going to be looking for your future customers? Like how are you going to do that? So it all just kind of felt bit interesting. And also like while I was doing it, I met some people who haven't done any qualification. They said like, yeah, but you can just go and say you are a life coach. It's like you have expertise, experience in certain areas. So that's what I'm saying. It's kind of like very interesting gray and
gray area. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think, to come back to your point, listening 100% is like, integral to the whole coaching process, being present, listening. There's a really good book actually from Nancy Klein, which is called The Time to Think. And it's just such a good book. And it talks about when you're listening, it's not about just kind of formulating a thought or the next thing you're going to say in your head as one way of listening, which a lot of us tend to do anyway. It's kind of getting rid of that. And then also at the same time, it's about meeting your client where they are. So like, for example, if we're having a conversation, right? And you said something at point A, and I've latched onto that in my head and I think, that's a really good point that Renar just said at point A. But then you continue talking for another 5-10 minutes. By the time that you finish, you've reached point letter D, for instance, right? So ideally, I should meet you at point D, letter D, as opposed to being attached to where I had my initial thought, which is letter A, and going back to that. So do you see, I'm meeting you where you are at letter D. You've arrived at letter D. I'm meeting you there to continue the conversation from where you've arrived. And it's such an interesting like concept, I thought, that, maybe we don't give much time to unless you kind of, read it in a book or come across it in a qualification or whatever. So yeah, I mean, being present, and again, that's not easy, that's not easy to do. I don't think that takes practice and that's a skill. Being present, listening 100%, being naturally curious to like want to find out about people. So that's where I think that's something I naturally have. Like I'm curious to understand what happens for someone. And it's not like a feigned or like a fake kind of interest. Oh, tell me more. It's like, no, actually, I want to know what's happening in your head, like what's happening for you in that moment, right? But you said before, like the idea of telling, coaching takes on different shapes in different places. So at least for Animas, the qualification that I've done, it's not about telling. It's not about, I'm not sitting there as a guru. I don't know everything there is to know about life. It's not like I have the perfect life and I just tell you how to live. I mean, that's not the way that I would want, to come across in the coaching space at all. It's about asking questions to help the person explore that particular area of their life so that they can kind of make the decision that's aligned to them.
As an example would be like, so why do you think that makes you feel this way?
With that voice.
Tell me, I really want to know.
Right, exactly, yeah.
One of the things that I, again, prove, I might be wrong, but it felt, and nowadays we're at that place in society, people lack more and more good friendships like people who they could talk to heart. It feels like this life coaching or, mentoring, the professional, like hiring them, they just want to have that deep conversation about telling about their life, their issues, like someone would listen to them, right? And it feels like we have less and less. And even like I look in my life, okay, I have maybe 3-4 friends who I know I can go and speak face to face and say, listen, this is what is going on in my life right now. Like, would be great to hear some advice.
I hope I'm one of them.
Next question. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there are some, people, again, like who are socially active, do all sorts of things considerably, or like kind of has friends, but a lot of those just acquaintances. But then they don't have those close people they can actually have this conversation. And I think in this case, men are probably the worst ones, because women, they tend to come and talk about their issues, and they like pretty good with that social aspect. And men, they're just, I'm just going to man up and do my thing and not going to talk about it. So I'm guessing I'm kind of walking into like a psychotherapy more area, but it's still people who struggle to talk about, like, like if you're helping someone regarding their careers and their next choice, whatever, there should be some other people who can help them just to have a conversation. Like, oh, Renars, you like this and this. I remember 2 years ago you said about you should do this. Why don't you do it? So like kind of, because I found myself quite a lot of times helping some of my friends, saying like, so you're studying something but you're not really enjoying, but your argument is it's going to be good money. But you understand that you're going to work and do this, you're going to be very unhappy, and then money's not going to matter. And then they're like, oh, really? Yeah. Oh, I didn't thought about it. I was like, how did you not thought about it? But because I learned from my past and my mistakes and experience, then I can tell them that.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I think like that's really important to have that. If you have that in a friendship, that's special, right? And I think that is important to have in a friendship. Having said that, I think even with, the coaching kind of space, there are certain skills there that you learn that maybe your closest friends, even though, again, they try to help, don't have those specific skills. So just a really quick example might be, we're often in this kind of dialogue, which is like what we're doing here, like really back and forth, right? You talk, I say my thought, you say your thought, bam, bam, bam. But actually in the coaching space, it's not about me. And sometimes that's useful, don't get me wrong, right? Sometimes that's useful and that's what the person wants and that's what they need. Or sometimes it's the advice or like getting that guidance, which is then more mentoring than it is coaching. So the mentor has walked the walk, they've taken the path, and they're just relaying and sharing what they've learned, the insights from their experience for this person to then learn from that, right? So that's kind of more mentoring in my view. But going back to this kind of conversation that you have with friends, it's rare that, what tends to happen, I find, is that sometimes the friend will listen for a little while, but then their thought, their experience will hijack their thinking, and that will come out as advice. And sometimes people don't need advice. I know that when I did the coaching qualification, I started seeing how much I was more aware or more like attuned to how much unsolicited advice I was getting from people for anything. And I was like, you know what, right now, I actually don't need or want your advice. I want to be able to continue my thinking on this without it being tainted by what you think, because I want to explore this thing myself and explore the landscape myself. And I don't think that happens that often in friendships, not because the person doesn't want to do it, but maybe because they don't know how. And that's the kind of skills that you learn in coaching, is how to, again, going back to what I said before, is how to meet the person where they are, going back to that D kind of point I said before, meet them where they are and help them continue their thinking without hijacking and going in with, well, I think that you should do X, Y, Z. Because sometimes that's not helpful.
Another thing is like, what are your friends? What is their thinking? And so very often people stick with the same friends since they're like high school or whatever. Someone who was like, outlook on life is whatever this way, and there's never going to be any like refreshing. Or that's why I'm saying to people, like, it's so important to travel. So when you travel, you live in different countries, you meet people from all over the world. Like for me, it was huge to move to Canada, but then moving to UK, to London, you go to London, anywhere you're going to go, it's going to be people from all over the world. Right. Now when I live in Bali, the same thing. And then that's and it's very simple. Like, show me your 5 friends, I will tell you who you are, right? And like 5 friends or whatever that is, it's more like what are their values, and that's why you're going to be around with them.
Yeah, exactly.
But then I'm not against life coaching. I think it's a great thing, and I'm just trying to figure out how there's something missing in our society. But to be fair, it's not really, in a sense, like there are gonna be times in our lives when we're not gonna have people around us who could be good giving advice in certain specific areas. And that's where the life coaching comes in. But how would you say, what is the best way for people to find that specific life coach? What would you say is the direction?
I'm going to come to that in a second, but just to come back to something else that you said. So that's another point, right? It's like, yeah, what is the quality of the thinking of the person that you're getting advice from as well, which is what I think I understood from what you're saying, right? It's like, so if you are getting advice, which again, for me, coaching is not about giving advice, sure, maybe you can share a suggestion here or there, if that feels right in the dynamic that you've created and the rapport you have with your client. But for the whole part of it, it's very much about, kind of helping the client to explore. Otherwise, for me, then it sits into the kind of the mentoring bracket, or it sits in the training bracket. So it's slightly different. But if you are, looking for advice, then it's like, well, who are you getting your advice from? It's like you said, right? What's the quality of their thinking? What are their values? Well, who are you being influenced by? And I think that's a big thing. And the other thing around coaching is also the accountability part that, I wouldn't say it's like a given that every single coach has accountability woven into the sessions. I don't think that's something that's always associated. Like, you think of coaching, it has to be accountability. I think some coaches, don't have that, and that's fine. That will work for some people. But for example, when I do coaching with someone, the accountability part is super strong. So like, if you tell me this is important for you, and we agreed on action, and the next time I see you, you've not taken the action, I would want to know why, like what's got in the way of that? Because you told me last session this is important, you've not done it, why have you not, what has got in your way? Because whatever's got in your way is most likely what's actually getting in your way most of the time, and that's what needs to be worked through. So it's, typically like a mind, because, I haven't said it yet, but it's specifically mindset. Did I say it's mindset coaching? I think I might have said. Anyway, it's mindset coaching, specifically within the life coaching bracket, right, that I do. So I do mindset coaching with someone that is, at the moment, wanting to start their own business, or they're getting blocked, or they've started their own business and they're hitting like a brick wall. They don't know why that's happening. So then we start exploring things around like their beliefs. What do they believe that is maybe not serving them? What are the goals that they have that they're now kind of not moving forward with? Confidence, all that kind of stuff, right? So there's loads of stuff woven in. But yeah, to go back to your question, where can people find it? There's loads of coaching directories out there. So there's, Coach Me Free is a good one if you want to get free coaching sessions, actually. But that's going to be from trainee coaches, most likely. So those that are going through qualifications, maybe haven't finished them. So that's where I started. I started offering coaching sessions on Coach Me Free back in the day.
But don't you think that it could be a bit kind of not the best experience if you go with someone who's just training to be? It's like, you need a medical assistance? Well, we have these free doctors. They're just learning how to be a doctor, so they can help you.
Well, yeah, you got to adjust your expectations that the person's is in a trainee position. So if you're getting it for free, then you've got to manage your expectations.
That's interesting, because that actually can be, I think it could be quite damaging for the whole industry. It's like, another example when you can get a free haircut. I remember back in Latvia would have a haircut school, and they need to practice, and then so they do it for free. But you expect that haircut is not going to be the best. But with coaching, it's kind of a bit different. If someone never done it before, then all of a sudden they give them a trainee. Instead, I would say give a proper someone really good, but just like a teaser.
No, but the person's deciding where to find, someone isn't being assigned a trainee coach. It's not like it would be you on your own accord deciding to consider a trainee coach and going to Coach Me Free as an example, right? So, but yeah, the person is still in training. It doesn't mean that they're not any good. It just means they're still learning the skills. But in every industry, you're going to get some people that are not good as well, right? That's part of it. So, but yeah, you're going to have Coach Me Free for people that are still training. And then other than that, you kind of got Bark, which is a good platform to kind of find coaches. Instagram, is now seems to be the place to also kind of where coaches advertise a lot. There's also, I can't remember the other platform. I can't remember at the top of my head now. There's so many different coaching platforms where you can find coaches.
What are the risks for people not to get like the right coach? It's like you're saying like, well, you try with one coach, you see how it goes and how that makes you feel. But then if there's some tough truth or something what they need to learn about themselves and they can't handle it, they're like, okay, this is not for me.
Yeah.
So where do we kind of understand which coach is good for you? Like you feel comfortable with, and then you see that there's development, there's improvement.
Yeah. Well, I think in the beginning it's important to do like introductory calls with different coaches. You know, so you do like a free, that's what I do with clients. I offer free introductory calls, which is typically like a 45-minute or an hour session it's not even a session, in fact. I always say, make it clear, this is not a coaching session. This is just a kind of like a chemistry call to get to know each other. You ask me about, what I've done, my qualifications, where I've come from, what you want to know about me in coaching. I want to know about you and kind of what's going on, where are you stuck right now, what goal are you working on that's, that you can't shift forward, you can't move forward with. And then you see, right? You see if there's like some synergy between you, if you're aligned in some way. And I would always say at least have 3 or 4 different introductory calls with different coaches and to see who you're kind of drawn to. And then people go into it at different levels of like analysis, right? Some people really go. I mean, I would go in with strong.
Of course you would.
Like I would want to know, does the person have qualifications? What are they like as a person? How long have they been doing it? What is their area of expertise? Do they have any previous clients and testimonials? I mean, all those things are important for me personally. Other people wouldn't look at any of that stuff. They would just go with how it feels.
So what if they go like, well, testimonials are insane. That's it.
What?
Well, testimonials, like someone says, well, just like we talked about self-proclaimed gurus.
Right.
So they don't have qualifications, they don't have any record, whatever, but they have like just hundreds of people say like this guy or she is the best.
Yeah.
And what would you do? You're like, yeah, let's go, or...
What are you saying? Are you asking me if I would choose a coach just based on testimonials alone?
Yeah, but it's like the best.
I don't know. I'd want to look into it more. I'd want to know a little bit more about the person. I'd want to know, I'd want to know what they're like. How do they come across? What do they stand for? I'd want to have a conversation with them. I wouldn't just be drawn in with testimonials alone. But that's me. I mean, that's not the only way of doing it. Other people, like I was saying, they go with gut feeling. They just have I've had people that I've had introductory calls with, and they've said to me afterwards, I just had a feeling that you were the right coach for me. And I was like, okay, that's great. I mean, if that's, I mean, obviously that's not the beginning of the conversation. We still have like the hour-long conversation, but it's in hindsight that they share that. So people make decisions differently.
So what do you think are the biggest misconceptions about life coaches in society in general?
That they give advice, that they tell
people. That's like
people.
number one.
I mean, it's tricky because actually, like I said, because coaching is unregulated, there are like the ICF, for instance, or the Association for Coaching, that they're trying to do their best to regulate the industry, which I think is really good. But on the whole, I mean, I don't think there's an overarching, kind of universal regulator from coaching in different countries and different continents and that kind of thing. I think the ICF are trying to kind of do their best on that front, but it's still somewhat unregulated. So so there are different types of coaching, and there are coaches that do give advice. I'm not saying that doesn't exist. That does exist, but it's not all coaching. All coaching isn't advice-based. Right? That's, in my view, kind of more mentoring.
Because I thought that's what as much as I learned from doing that course, or some of it, I found it was amazing just to, instead of telling what to do, you ask questions about certain areas.
It's incredible.
And then, that's the power of that is insane.
It is.
And you allow that person just to talk, and then all of a sudden they just answered on their question.
Yeah.
And it's, whoa.
Yeah, and then not only that, but so the examples that I've kind of heard of before, and I think they're really good, is, if someone, say for example, comes to me and they say, this is not a typical example, right? But if they say, Laura, I don't know what to do about my career, blah, blah, blah. And within the first 10 minutes, I'm like, well, you know what you should do? You should do X, Y, Z. Based on my experience, this is what you should do. And I come in with that really confident, assertive, advice-giving approach. you're gonna piss someone off, right? Most likely.
I thought you were gonna say like, "Oh, thank you, Laura. This is amazing."
No, you're likely going to piss them off because the recipient of that is going to be like, well, hold on a minute, I just met you. Who are you to come and tell me what you think I should be doing with my life when I met you 10 minutes ago? You don't know anything about the things that I've tried, I've not tried, my challenges, the bottlenecks I've, faced, my blind spots, and you're just kind of telling me that this is the route I should take. I mean, it's just so superficial, and the person's defenses come up automatically, which I think is, makes sense. And then it's, that conversation is just completely lost because you've just gone in too quickly giving advice based on your only experience. Like you
need a foreplay, Laura.
What?
Foreplay.
Oh my God.
You can't just go.
That's how your brain works, right? It's just like anything I say, you're just like converting it to something sexual.
But but foreplay could be not just sexual.
Okay, right. Tell me more. Tell me what you were thinking.
What else foreplay could be? Well, report. That's also the same thing, isn't it? Build a report, foreplay. Are those not synonyms?
I think.
English is my second language, so I always can go there.
I think you just wanted to use the word synonym, didn't you?
Yeah,
that's it.
Synonym.
Well, what happened to that thing that you were doing, where you were doing like words? You were teaching what each
They're
word
so
meant.
good. Honestly, like
you were doing YouTube stuff on that, weren't you?
Yeah, and people keep subscribing. I haven't posted anything for a year.
Really?
I just see like there's more and more subscribers. I'm explaining words on YouTube. Check it out.
As in
words with Renars.
Is that what it's called?
I think so.
Is that
Something
actually
like
what
that,
it's called?
But it's cool. Like and so many comments. Oh, that's a great explanation. I love it. It's like really fun.
But were you just going into the depth? Because I saw them ages ago, so I can't remember.
All I did like to say, for example, word, I don't know, objection, whatever, and then I was like, so you can then I give a definition, and then I give examples we use, and then I say the synonyms and antonyms if they have antonyms.
Oh yeah, I remember antonyms. Yeah, because you were so proud that you got that word and you were telling me on the phone.
I remember one of the words was obfuscate. Oh,
it's
I remember
what?
that. Obfuscate. I already forgot what the fuck was it.
Obfuscate.
Obfuscate. Obfuscate. Yeah.
Confiscate.
No, not confiscate. Obfuscate. I will show later.
Okay. Never heard of that one.
Oh, what else? Yeah, difficult to remember now.
Yeah.
But wait, did you just like took me off my tracks?
Yeah, advice.
Ooh, yeah. So you earlier mentioned certain like jargon of the life coaching, like bottlenecks and stoppages, and so. No, you mentioned bottleneck.
No, I did say bottleneck, but that's not a jargon within the coaching. It's just what came to mind.
Yeah, but still, like
beliefs is more of a jargon within. It's more of a use or like known concept within coaching.
So what was bottleneck?
It's just like where someone's stuck.
Yeah, if someone's stuck. So no example in a coaching environment. When do the people get bottleneck? So it's like when they just don't know what's the solution, how to move on. Well,
I mean, it could be, often it's around beliefs. So beliefs is a big thing that I work on with someone because it's what are the underlying beliefs that they have about themselves, or usually themselves actually. It's that self-belief that's stopping them, or that's getting in their way. So, that often comes up, and then we start exploring it. Okay, so when did this belief crop up? What are the triggers? When do you think like that? Because you're not always going to be thinking like that. Right. So if you think, for example, I'm not good at public speaking, just as like a random example, that's not, I mean, I did that a while ago with someone, but that's not what I focus on now. Then that thought or that belief that you're not good at public speaking isn't going to be there all the time, right? If you're on holiday, that belief is not going to be, it's not going to be coming to the forefront of your mind. But if you're asked to do a presentation, that belief's going to crop up. So it's like, when does it crop up? How does it show up? What are the kind of, what's what I'm looking for?
Triggers?
Yeah, the triggers. What are the consequences of having that belief, right? So how does that impact you? What does it mean? It means that you can't, do public speaking. It means probably you won't stand up and talk in a group meeting. It means you won't do presentations. So it's really impacting you. And then you start looking at, and this I'm talking about one particular exercise, right? You start looking at, for me, what's like the juiciest part is like, what is the validity of that belief? Right? So you start challenging, like, how true is that belief? Have you distorted it in any way? Have you distorted the evidence that's upholding that belief? Or, what is the evidence that goes against that belief? So have you ever thought about, when maybe have you been quite good at public speaking, or, what skills do you have that you can work on that in time will make you better at public speaking. So, you know, how much time and space have you given to questioning the validity of that belief? And then you start looking at, right, what kind of, and sorry, there's another thing as well, like, you know, how much have you generalized as well? So people tend to kind of distort, generalize, or delete information. So I'll give like more of a concrete example, right?
What about assumptions? As like someone assumes that they're just not going to be good in public speaking.
Yeah, I mean that as well. There's, you
That's
know,
also like is it belief, assumption?
well, yeah, that they can believe, you know, without kind of much maybe evidence or kind of much thought around it, that because they're not good with people, that they're not going to be good at public speaking. They just assume that, for example, right? But they haven't given it much time and space. But
And then you would explore like, where did that belief came from? It's like, why would you be convinced that just because you can't do that, you
Yeah.
won't be able to do the other thing?
yeah, so like typically I'd work with someone to understand by asking them questions. Again, like I'm just, you know, emphasizing that it's not me telling them,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm just trying to help them explore what beliefs do you have in this area. So the area for me would be starting your own business, for example. What beliefs do you have about yourself that are holding you back, right? So like even, so when I start, I mean, obviously I, you know, have my own limiting beliefs as well. Just because I work in this space doesn't mean I have no limiting beliefs, like I'm immune to it. It's not the case. I just can work on them. I can recognize them now and I can work on them. Whereas before I couldn't because I didn't see them. I didn't know that this whole thing existed. So like when I started, I was thinking, you know, where am I going from a full-time corporate, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, never having set up my own business. I mean, the only kind of entrepreneurial thing that I did when I was younger was tuition. Like, and I would take kind of tuition classes with like kids and that kind of thing, right? So I did like a little, but that was not anything major. But apart from that, I had no evidence in my head to show me that I could do what I was just about to start doing. So then I had the limiting belief, which is you only belong in corporate. You know, you don't have any transferable skills. Where do you get off trying to be a coach, you know, life coach, right? Or like I said, I'm more specific about mindset coaching rather than the whole bracket of life coaching. So there was loads of stuff that was getting in my way. And I thought, well, hold on a minute. If I keep thinking like that, if I keep believing this stuff without questioning it, challenging it, then I'm just going to stay in, you know, where I am for the rest of my life.
So I think this is a really big takeaway from this conversation is the challenge your beliefs. It's like when you're convinced in something or you somewhere made to believe that this is the way it is, ask you, like make those questions like why? Why do you think that that's the way it is?
I would be careful what kind of question you ask yourself, because if you got to ask yourself a good quality question. Because if you ask yourself, why do I believe that I'm shit at public speaking?
Right.
You're going to get answers for that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're going to open that door in your mind that gives you all the reasons to tell you why you're shit at public speaking.
Because one time, like back
Right.
in the days,
It's almost like you've done a Google search,
Right.
right? And Google's going to find you. Trust me, there's been no shortage of answers, right? Especially with limiting beliefs. But so you've got to be careful with the quality of questions. So if you're asking yourself, you know, what evidence is contrary or what evidence goes against the idea that I'm bad at public speaking, that's a different question. Then you're going to start looking for evidence in your mind, focusing on that, like as to what things have happened for you or what things have you done, how have you approached things, you know, public speaking or something similar in a way that boosts your kind of self-belief around that. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
That's a great way to put that. Yeah. No wonder is that what you do is that what you do.
What?
You do what you do.
I do what I do.
Yeah. Life coaching.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and then you kind of like the last part of it would be creating a belief that's more empowering, right? So something, and I always say when I work with clients, it doesn't have to be the polar opposite. You don't have to go from, you know, I'm really bad at public speaking, or let's go back to starting your own business. I can never start my own business, to I'm amazing, I'm going to start my own business tomorrow. It doesn't have to be the polar opposite, unrealistic belief. I mean, it can if you feel that that is what you need to kind of help you move and shift, and that's going to drive you to kind of make some initial movements. You know, some of my clients are like, no, Laura, I kind of feel like that belief would be useful for me to have, but it's not too far-fetched. And anyway, but most of the time, it can be just a small tweak or like a modification of where you are, i.e., limiting belief is, I'm never going to start, I don't have the skills to start my own business. And shifting that to, I don't have all the skills right now. I have some of them, and the rest of them I can learn, right?
Renarspodcast.